Good morning, guys. You know how I love my work with TBM and have encouraged each and every one of you to join us. Well, today we have a special guest. We have Ricky Parker, who is our leader, fierce leader of Texas Baptist Men in the Deep East Texas portion of that. And he's going to share where the Lord has taken him because TBM sent him as a servant in Poland for Ukraine. Let's welcome Ricky Parker, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Ricky Parker. I just want to talk a little bit about this church and TBM before I start with the trip to Poland. This church gives more to this group, Deep East Texas Disaster Relief, than any church that we have in the 14 counties, this church. So I wanted you to be aware of how proud we are of this church. A lot of people say, what a blessing it is that I get to do what I do. And the blessing is not mine. The blessing is yours that you give, and we're able to do this. So it's a thing that started about 6 years ago. And my wife Terry was here. We flooded, and we were kind of lost as to what we could do. So all of a sudden a van pulls up, and 20 Cub Scouts get out of this van, and they said, "We're going to come help you." And the scoutmaster said, I told him, would you rather go camping or would you rather go change somebody's life? And he did. So, anyhow, I'm blessed to be part of this group, and I guess I get to lead the funny farm, But we have a great time together, and we're just family. And there's people in this church, Pat and Leonard, Nolan, Virgil and Barbara, Wilson, Sam, I see you back there, bud, and a new man that I haven't worked with yet, Cliff Broussard. So these are all members from this church, that's super. I mean, it's just great. TBM has sent us, it's been a busy year already. Me and Leonard has been to Colorado, Louisiana. We're on call to go to New Mexico right now. And then we work local at the Baptist encampment. We just cut trees so that the kids could be safe at the Baptist encampment. So that's what we do. Once the Cub Scouts finished our house, we had a group from Mississippi Baptist men and women come to the house, and they finished the job. And I told her, I said, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't do this, So I found a group, I joined that group, and here I am today. So, with all that being said, I was at Disney with my wife, my 2 kids, and my granddaughter, and we were having a great time. And in the evening, we would come back to the room, and I would watch the news, and I said, we're having a great time here, and there's people around the world that are suffering. And I asked her, I said, would you care if I went to Poland? she said, no, she didn't, she supports me 100%. So, I made some phone calls and told them that I wanted to volunteer to go. And, so they said, well, get your passport, your shot records. You're gonna have to go through a background check and then once your security clearance, you have a big security clearance, then we'll give you a phone call. So, there was four groups of 10, group 1 through group 4. I was in group 4. So you have to go through a 5 thing of security clearances. You got city, county, state, federal, military, and they check your church. That you got to have a questionnaire filled out by your preacher, your associate preacher, and anybody else that you work with there. So it's a humongous security check just to do this. So they told me I was picked, and we met in Dallas. I had flown from Beaumont to Dallas the day before, and we met in Dallas at the airport at 6 a.m. in the morning. Boarded a plane, flew to Chicago, flew to Frankfurt, Germany, flew to Warsaw, Poland, and then got in a van for 3 hours to go to Helm. It's C-H-E-L-M. We say Helm. Once we got there, we checked into our hotel. They call it a 5-star hotel. My bed was about this thick, So their 5 stars and my 5 stars are really not the same. But the next day, there was 10 of us. So we divided up. Some of the people went to a Baptist church that was sponsoring us while we were there. And then some of us went to a warehouse to do whatever needed to be done. So there was 4 of us went to the warehouse. Our job there was to, we would lay 12 pallets out in a row. And we would start by putting food. It started out with food. We would put 5 5-pound bags of sugar, 5-pound bags of flour, dry beans, rice, noodles, anything that you could add water to for them to eat. Okay? Helm is only about 9 miles from Ukraine. So we were that close. But you built this pallet up with food, and I have pictures here somewhere. Oh, I have pictures here that I'll show you in just a little bit. After I finish talking, then I'll explain the pictures to you. We loaded the food to about chest high with food. And then we started adding medical supplies, syringes, gauze, tape, needles, you name it, it was in there. I mean, there was, in an emergency situation, they kind of waived the deal. I mean, we was even loading little boxes of morphine, Here would be, there would be guards all around you, but there, it was just an everyday thing that they, we shipped it. Then after the medical supplies was loaded on, then we loaded hygiene supplies. And hygiene was toothpaste, toothbrushes, wash rags, towels, shampoo, body wash, just whatever was donated by people. And then we would wrap these pallets with saran wrap. And then we would hang a sign on these pallets. And the sign that we hung the most was this one right here. It says Bach, B-A-C-H. So the warehouse manager was a member of the Baptist church there that we were with. So I asked him, I said, what is this Bach? What does that mean? You know, because it didn't make any sense to me, because if you got Ukrainian and Polish and American, you like donate a pallet. So I said, what is this Bach? What does that mean? He says, Baptist, B-A, Charities, C-H. So each pallet that we built was $800. And there was 36 pallets per 18-wheeler, or $30,000 every time one of them pulled out. So, and believe me, there was a couple of days that we loaded for the French or something like that, but in all, Baptist Charities paid for just about everything. So when they talk about giving, you know, when they talk about giving, this is the blessing that you get for donating so that we can do the work. So the blessing is yours, not mine. So anyhow, so we was in the warehouse. At about 12 o'clock, they would take us by a van to the Baptist church, and they fed us. And you know, when you got coleslaw for breakfast, coleslaw for lunch, and coleslaw for supper, and soup for breakfast, soup for lunch, soup for, you know, so it's kind of a, you know, I was losing weight. But anyhow, we would go to the Baptist church. So the group of guys that was with me, lunch may not be ready yet, so we would go mop the women's bathroom, the men's bathroom, downstairs, upstairs, you know. So all the people in the church, they were like, okay, this guy's working in the warehouse, and now he's over there, you know, mopping floors and everything. So they were always constantly looking at you, trying to figure out, you know, what you're doing, you know. So comes Good Friday, and so there was two other people besides myself that has cooked for TBM, mass cooking. Mass cooking means 30,000 meals a day, you know. So we decided that we would cook for the church staff, because they had been going around the clock, believe me, around the clock, since the war started over there, and they were just wore out. So we took these women's kitchen, and that was a job in itself, just trying to convince them, you know, hey, I'm not going to mess your pot up, you know. So we cooked about 85 to 100 chicken breast and made jerk chicken sandwiches. But we made some spicy barbecue sauce, and they call it spicy over there is like you're saying Austria, you know, Austria, and it's Asti. So I had two 17-year-old girls with me most of the time that would translate for me, you know, so I told them, you know, it's hot sauce, you know, so everybody looked at and said, you know. I said, just try it, just try it. You know, and I put a little bit on their plate, and they would take a bite of it and they'd go, oh, yeah. So I started putting barbecue sauce that we had made up on their plates and everything. And man, by the time we were done, we had to make up a whole nother 4 jars or 5 jars of barbecue sauce for when we were leaving, you know. But anyhow, so now they've seen me working at the warehouse. They've seen me mopping bathroom floors and everything, and they've seen me cooking. I was a Navy medic when I was young, and then I went to work for DuPont, and I was trained as an EMT, Texas EMT. So when I was going over there, they told me, bring your medical bag, you know, so I did. I packed it, you know. And so we ate and everything with the people and sat with them and everything. And some of our people said, hey, we've got some sick kids upstairs. Do you mind looking at them? And, you know, taking their temperature and you know, listening to their little lungs and everything. So I said, sure. So these two 17-year-old girls, they followed me, you know, and I went over to my medical bag and, man, I unzipped it and I put my stethoscope around my neck. I blew those people's minds. I'm telling you, they said, what the heck have we got? This guy's mopping floors and, you know, cooking, and now he's a doctor? So it just kind of cracked. They were just like, man, what is the deal? So you could just see them, you know. So they said, are you a doctor? I said, no, I'm a medic, you know, EMT. They don't have a word for that over there, you know. So, yeah, okay, I'm a doctor, you know. So anyway, we listened, you know, looked at the kids and everything. And the reason that most of the kids were sick, and I'm going to get to the bad part now, the reason that they were sick is that they had to travel a long time with no food or water. So when they got to the church, they gorged. There was food there on the table, drinks, Cokes, candy, cupcakes, whatever. They gorged, and it made them sick. They were throwing up everywhere. You know, we carried 30 of them to the hospital there in Helm. But anyway, we got that under control. COVID over there is rampant. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So we had all come to the conclusion, the 10 of us, hey, we're just gonna get COVID. That's it. You know, we're just gonna work through it. But we're gonna get it. But we tested about every other day with test and I don't know how, but everybody that, and the other part of the group that wasn't in the warehouse and everything, they took the sheets and pillowcases off the beds and washed the kids' clothes. To a person, every one of them caught COVID, you know, because of the handling the sheets and everything. So there was 8 people with COVID, and 2 of us, I being one, did not catch COVID. So, and I felt lucky about that because it was going to be another 10 days, you know, in a hotel. So that was good. They moved the children and the women at nighttime. The Russian soldiers do not like to go outside or fight at nighttime because they can't see good, so they're not going to risk their lives. So that gave a window for the Ukrainians to move the children and the women across the line. You know, they would walk them to a certain area, and then they would put them in vehicles and then take them to buses and buses to across the border. So that was an advantage. One evening, and when I'm saying, if you had 5 or more kids, your husband could come with you across the border. If you had 4 or less, he had to bring you to the border and then go back and fight. If you were 15 years old, you had to go fight, you know. So that in itself is earth-shattering. But one night we would get 80 to 85 kids and women about every other day or every 2 days. They would wait until they had a pretty good group of people, and then they would bring them across. We got a group in, and I thought, man, this is crazy, because every child there had a burr haircut. I mean, shorter than mine, like yours, you know. but they had, their hair was burred, and I said, what's the deal here? Why are these kids got no hair? I said, did they not have shampoo, you know, to wash their hair with? And the girls told me, no, it's because they don't want the Russian troops to know that they're girls. So they do a lot of bad stuff over there to little girls. So they cut their hair off. So anyhow, that's the worst part of this trip. You know, everything else was such a blessing, and you know, I think we did well. There was people from the neighborhoods that would pull up to the warehouse and in vans and cars and everything, and they would load their vehicles up with it. And the food that they got was paid for by Baptist Charities. You know, I said that I told JR that you know, they had to pay for it, but it was paid for, but it was paid for by Baptist Charities. They would go back to their neighborhoods across the border, or anything like that. It was easy to get across this way. To go back, there was soldiers. There was soldiers there, and actually there's probably close to 100,000 U.S. soldiers right there, just off the border. They're just sitting there waiting, you know. So I didn't feel worried at any time that I had any trouble coming my way. And only one time did I hear that 5-star hotel, they have the heating pipes that goes around the room, you know, and whatever steam they put in is what the temperature in your room is. So the only way to get the air conditioner is to open the window, you know. And Poland, if you go from here straight up to the top of the United States, then go all the way to the top of Canada, and then take a right and go across, that's where Poland is. So it was on Good Friday, it was 26 degrees, you know, in the mornings. So, and the highs was 46. So when the steam was too bad, you just open your window in the room. And only one night out of the time did I hear the air raid horn go off. You can hear it from 8 miles away, believe me. You know, I said, is that what I think it is? Yeah, that's what it is. You know, so, but it was just such a blessing to go. I was telling JR that the preacher at the Baptist church, he has 5 daughters, which 5 daughters, oh my gosh, you know. One of them was grown and married a United States Army guy, and they live in South Carolina. So he has 4 daughters at home. He now has 16 children. He's adopted 11 kids.
Wow.
So, you know, and I thought, man, this guy is something else. But when I say that the whole church is raising these kids, they're raising these kids. The older women that are at the church, the children call them babushka, which means grandmother. You know, they just call them all grandmother because they're being raised by just about everybody in the church. So these are all children, I guess, that were orphaned. You know, no mother, no father, you know, that they know of. So the preacher takes them. So I don't know, you know, how many you'll have by the time next year rolls around or what, but it's still going on. I'm still in touch with the girls over there all through Facebook, and you know, and they're happy that they're just to get out of school for the summer and everything. So I take a lot of pictures with TBM, and I take a lot of pictures everywhere I go to let people see our story, you know, to know what we're doing, to that we travel. You know, I probably took 150, 200 pictures when we went to Colorado and ashed out the houses there. But I put it on Facebook, and people always, you know, comment, you know, oh, what a blessing. But I keep saying that the blessing is yours, you know, when you're giving, that allows us to do what we need to do. And I talked to JR, and I told him, I said, I'm going to read this. It's from Mark 10:45, and it says, "For even the Son of Man did not come to be saved, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for," Ricky Parker. That's in my Bible. Yeah, your Bible probably reads a little bit different at the end, but mine says Ricky Parker. So anyhow, they tell us to be a servant. And, you know, I promise to serve as long as I can, you know. So with that being said, I'm going to show you some pictures now so you'll know what I'm talking about. There was 4 churches in Helm, an Orthodox church, 2 Catholic churches, and a Baptist church. And the Baptist church is thriving. It is packed full. They give service in Ukrainian, they give service in Polish, and they give service in English, all at the same time. I read the Bible in Polish. There's a translator there that reads it in Ukrainian, and there's a translator over here that reads it in English. So it is thriving, the church over there. And the church has tentacles out everywhere. They own coffee shops to where that they can witness to people there, and they have these vegetable stands and everything in that district, you know. And the last day I was there, I heard Ricky, and I thought, well, there's a name that you don't just hear in Poland all the time. You know? So I turned around, and it was the music director. He was there where they were selling vegetables, and he said, "Hey, I want to pray for you, you know, Ben, you're leaving, you know." So, man, we're standing out there amongst everybody, and we prayed, you know, and said our goodbyes. We got up every day, and we would have a debrief about what's going to happen today. We prayed. We went to eat breakfast. We blessed the food and prayed. We went to the warehouse. Every person that showed up, truck drivers, people in cars, whatever, if they stuck their head in the door, we called timeout, the job stopped, and we prayed with them. So that's our main purpose, is to help people, but the main purpose for Texas Baptist Men is to bring people to know the Lord. So anyhow, I'm going to show you some of these pictures now. This was the group of people. The two girls, one by me on the right and right behind her are the two 17-year-olds. This is the warehouse. This is the bulk food that you see right there. It comes in on an 18-wheeler in bulk, and then we will build the pallets. This is in the church itself. This is every place they can find to stuff something they do. It's nothing but diapers. This is the Baptist church that we worked with. It's kind of a modernistic type church, but it's beautiful. Back to the diapers again. There's the two girls. This girl in front, she's a director of the state of Texas Relief something. I don't know what her title was. This was me when I was had my cooking hat on, you know. And Monica McDowell, she's McDougal, I'm sorry. She runs the shower laundry. When we go out, they have a trailer that when we just go out, we cut trees all day. Then we come back in and our laundry's done for us. We take a good hot shower, and then we get to eat and we get to go to bed again, you know, and do it all over tomorrow. So I've become very close to her. My church in Orange, Texas, North Orange Baptist Church, is known for disaster relief, like this church is known. This church is known throughout our group as being one of the most giving churches that there is. Texas has 14 zones, and in this zone, Deep East Texas, there's 14 counties. Out of the 14 counties, we have people living in 9 of the 14 counties. This was the day they brought in 1,200 loaves of French bread. And so we had to, you can see that we're not very far along, but we had to take the French bread out of the blue and white bags and put it in boxes and put that on the pallets. And I wanted to grab one for myself there. I'm going to show some pictures of the church. This cross is at the very top of the city up there. You have to breathe real hard to get enough air in because you're so far up. This is the Stations of the Cross, the Catholics. It's all the way around where those trees are. There's these statues, and you take them. And these were been there since the 1500s. But you just walk around. It's real peaceful, quiet. There's birds chirping. But I just wanted to take some pictures. This is me clowning. I'm pointing at the women's bathroom, and I got my mop. You know. Back to the churches. Just gorgeous pictures. This is the shroud, I guess. Each one of these is in the Catholic. I don't know exactly what they mean, but they call it the 12 Stations of Christ. So this is out looking over the city, at the very top up there where the big cross is. You can look out over the city, and you could actually, if you just look past him going that way, Ukraine is 8 miles that way. Different. This is a basilica of Mary, the Virgin Mary. The insides of the churches were just humongous. You try to figure out how could somebody in the 1500s build something like this. They have stained glass all the way around that church. There's Pope John Paul. He was born in Poland, and so they enshrined him in glass. But each one of these are just beautiful. Then the artwork is hanging up, and I guess that's it. What I'll do now is I will open this up to anybody that has any questions. Is there any questions that anybody would want to ask?
How long ago were you over there?
I was there Easter through Easter. So I hadn't been home that long, what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Somewhere around in there. We have people right now that are in Israel and India, Bangladesh, and somewhere else. But Fairdale Baptist Church, that's where.
Are we still sending them to Poland?
Not right now. TBM made the decision that because COVID is so bad, that it would be best if we stayed out for our own safety for right now. It could go back and tomorrow and say, hey, do you want to go back? And I would go back in a heartbeat. I would stay longer. You're flying over there, it's 17 hours of flights, and we had a debrief last Thursday, and they said, well, would you make any changes? And I said, well, it takes 2 days to fly there, and then we stayed 10 days and 2 days to fly home. And I said, I think we need to stay longer. And they said, well, is there any other thing you'd change? I said, yeah. And me just being me, I said, yeah, I would start out on a cruise ship and go over there on a cruise ship and then catch my flight when I got there, So they said, oh yeah, we'll take that under consideration.
But we are sending people to Israel, you said now?
Yes, TBM, and don't ask me how this worked, but Israel gave the Texas Baptist men, and only the Texas Baptist men, a piece of property in Israel that has a kitchen. And the reason they did is that first they know the reputation of TBM, and if there was ever an emergency to where they needed mass feeding, and you know what that means. That means war to them. We would go over and mass feed. So, yeah. So we have people there.
There were no pictures of the facilities or the kids. Can you tell us why?
Yes. We were not allowed, and I'm glad I forgot to tell them. We weren't allowed to take any pictures of the children or the warehouse. We could take pictures of the warehouse on the inside, but we couldn't take a picture on the outside because Russia's monitoring all Facebook pages, everything, and they're trying to get a fix on where all the supplies are coming from or where the children are staying. So we weren't allowed to show any of the children outside. If you just looked at it, it would look like I'm taking pictures of churches, But and that's the reason. The kids, they had Crocs shoes there that glow in the dark. I mean, they're just like vivid orange and red and yellow, and each kid would get those Crocs, and that way you know which one was church kids and which one were Ukrainian kids. We knew the difference between, because they had these glow in the dark shoes on, you know, even the mothers and everything, so.
You referenced that the Russians and Facebook were kind of the situation that y'all had to be mindful of over there. Is that what you?
Yes, yeah, I had to be totally mindful of anything that I put on there, where I was, what I was doing. I could take pictures of the churches and stuff like that, but I couldn't take pictures. And you know, when you take a picture on Facebook, it actually tells you where you are when you do this. So that's one thing that I'm sure but they're monitoring everything that's coming out of there right now. Anybody else?
What's the mental state of those kids?
If you've ever seen a person with PTSD, we call it the 1,000-yard stare. That's what it is. It's a stare at the ground, and you know, the women are the same way, because I mean, you stop and think about it. They only stayed at the Baptist church for about 4 days, 5 days at the most, and then they were boarded back on a bus, and they were gone. Latvia would take 200,000. Germany would take 200,000. So these families are busted apart. They don't know where their daddy is. They don't know where their mother and father are. They don't know, you know, they don't know anything. It's going to take years and years for these people to group back up some way, unless they had, you know, unless they have some way to communicate. And right now, it's not there. They're just, Helm was just a spot to stop, bring them in, feed them, clothe them, give them water and food, let them sleep for 3 or 4 days, and then move them. So that's what this was. It was a distribution center, you know. So the young kids, you know, it was more the teenage kids that had the stare. The young kids, you know, they had all kinds of Lincoln logs and everything to play with, and they were good to go. But the teenage kids had the stare, you know, with the mothers, you know. So, well, I want to thank you again for the way that you've served us with your donations, and I want you to know that we're so appreciative of this church. Thank you for letting me speak today, and you know, I'm going to continue doing this until I can't do this. So, thank you very much.
Ricky,
Yes, ma'am.
we thank you for what you're doing, because it is a lot of hard work. It's constant hard work all day long. I know that, so thank you.
Yes, well, you know that, and we're just carrying on what you started, you know. So, you know, and it's just going to go in waves, you know, that people that are in their 70s, they're going to get to be in their 80s. I get to move from 60 to 70, you know. And so I'm just keep going that direction, you know. But we have people that's 82, 83 years old that still climb in a tree now. I'm telling you, I don't see how they do it, but they do it. But we have been blessed of the equipment that we needed, and that's a whole nother story that I could tell you about all of that. How we started out with nothing, and we're now one of the premier teams, I think, in TBM.
Well, they showed when we were in Eastland, they waited for our group to take that one tree down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got to where they saved trees for us, you know. They say, well, we wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole, but hey, that group from deep East Texas, they will do it. So.
And you know, a lot of people ask us, well, don't those people have insurance? That's not why we do it. We do it for God. We do God's work. and hopefully get them that don't know God to know God.
Thank you, JR.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you coming
I
out.
appreciate you offering, and thanks.
Yes, sir.
All righty.
Thank you.